So, Thomas, one of the things I hate when I'm talking to prospects is we try to book an appointment with them, and they give me some blow off answer. Yeah, that sounds great. Maybe give me a call back in a month, or call back in 3 months, or call back in 6 months, or some ridiculous amount of time out. Oftentimes, when they ask for the 6 months, I really feel like they're just blowing me off. They're not really interested. And I mean, like, the thing is, I hate about this is if I call them back, the likelihood they might have picked a competitor's product.
Mhm.
They might have just suffered this whole time when my product could have helped them during that time. And really, like, the longer the engagement goes on, the more potential it's just going to die. Like, time kills deals. I
Mhm.
hate when that amount of time goes through. What are some tips that you could suggest for um, getting better urgency and getting the prospects to actually book an appointment?
Yeah, I think the first step is making sure that urgency is justified. And by that, I mean, did you really touch on the right pain points? Do you really have the correct value proposition that's going to help
Hmm.
that prospect and potential client solve the problem that they might actually have? Is that an issue that is front and center for them in the way that you framed it? And really, ultimately, is there going to be a fit? I mean, you can book someone in for a demo. They can say 6 months out, you got them in for next week somehow, and they show up, and really, it's a bad fit. We want
Hmm.
to avoid all of that. So again, first thing, go back, dial in on the value prop, dial in on the pain point, and make sure that there's a one-to-one relationship between those two things.
Yeah, try to find what the cost of not going with your product
Mhm.
is and relate that back. If they tell you something silly like, "Oh, we're gonna check back in 6 months," like, they don't see it as a
Yeah,
huge pain
and
point.
that's a great point. I think if you have a high degree of confidence that you really can solve the problem that they have, and that problem is a problem worth solving, right? Either in terms of the cost of labor that can be avoided
Mhm.
by with your solution, or other costs, right? If you can turn the conversation back on that and say, "Hey, Adriel, you've told me about problem XYZ. Is this still going to be a problem for you 6 months from now? And how much is that problem going to cost you between here and then?" Right? Why don't we get ahead of it? Why don't we book a
Yeah.
meeting next week? Let's try it.
Yeah, no sense doing the demo in 6 months when you've told me that this is costing you 20 grand a month. That's
Mhm.
gonna be, 120 by the time we're at the demo time. Why don't you save that money and let's start looking at it right now.
Yeah, and a good way again of just phrasing that is asking a simple, direct question. Will this still be a problem for you 6 months from now? And then
Mm,
end it there and let them respond and fill in the details.
pain, sticking the knife in and twisting.
Yeah,
So,
without overstepping.
yeah, and without overstepping, yeah. So that's a great point. Using consultative selling, making sure that the prospect sees the value in the product there or service that you're offering. Let's say they're still like they got a million other priorities, and they're giving you a time frame that's way too long out. What are the next steps you would take to increase the urgency so that they book it in a shorter period of time?
Yeah, I mean, level with them. Ask the prospects, what has you so busy? Is it a deadline? I mean, is it the fact that they might be on vacation in the next 2 weeks? Don't don't try and push for a demo then, right? Wait 2 weeks. It can wait. Just level with them. Ask them where they're at, where they think they're going to be at in the next month, and if that reason is something that can be moved around or not.
Yeah, I've dealt with salespeople as on the receiving end before, where I've said I've got this vacation or whatever, and they've been like really dull, like they really wanted the sale like way too much, and they
Hmm.
pushed really hard. And there's been points where I've been like, no, I'm not dealing with you anymore. This is some BS. Why are you trying to get me to call you while I'm on vacation so that you can demo your product or something else that's ridiculous? So I think it's important to like recognize when the prospect has a real reason
Hmm.
that that has to be delayed versus like a priority issue that you can bump up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And starting with patience and starting with understanding is the right way to start a business relationship. I think so. If you don't do that, if you fail to do that, you're already starting off on the wrong foot, as it
Mhm.
were.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So what are some other tips that you would use to help motivate them or help to book it a little bit sooner?
Yeah. So again, I mean, on the matter of leveling with the prospect, a simple phrase like, "Look, Adriel, I hear you. This quarter's been busy. We'd really love to help you get ahead of the next rush. How does the next 2 weeks look for you?" And then again, just turn it back to them and let them think about it. That's one way. A second way is to simply acknowledge your position
Hmm.
and the position of your product, right? So in our case, our products take a week or two to ramp up. It's really effective just to let the prospect know that, or to reaffirm that, because often they also know that. And you say something like, Adriel, look, we want to get ahead of this. Like we said, our product takes about a week or 2 weeks just to ramp up. So
Hmm.
it'd be really helpful to get this demo in next week, because then our support team can help you out that much quicker.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of companies will match with that because they have their busy times and their not
Mhm.
busy times. During their busy times, they're going full out. They don't have time to think about other solutions. They just got to use whatever cobbled together garbage they've got going as at the moment. And then on their unbusy times, it feels like they just we don't need it right now. It's not really
Mhm.
busy. So I think that like spelling out like, hey, this is proactive. Soon you're not going to have the time for this. You need to do this before the next rush. I think
Yeah.
a lot of businesses would connect with that reasoning for bumping up a demo.
I mean, in most cases, the best time was yesterday. The second best
Yeah.
time is today. And on my end as an SDR, I've heard it many times, like from a prospect saying, "Hey, you're really fortunate to have caught me at this exact moment for this exact reason." And as SDRs, we can't rely on that luck of just being fortunate to get the prospect at the right time. We have to kind of again create that sense of urgency that now or next week is the best time to move ahead with this. So again, another way of doing that uh, could simply be just listening to the prospect's request a month out, 2 months out, and countering in a straightforward manner uh, a different offer, right? So just, hey, Adriel, I'm going to be honest with you. 1 week out is better for us. What's the story next week? And then just shut up and let them think about it. Um, I'm
Use a bit of
always
silence in there.
a little bit of
What
silence,
about
my
next week?
favorite. Yep. I'm continually amazed by how many so-called packed schedules I've managed to rearrange by just simply parrying with a "What does next week look like for you?" and then letting them decide.
Interesting.
And they move
Yeah.
something around. I mean, some of those things suddenly don't seem like a priority, and they can now make time.
Yeah. Standing meetings to do reporting or something like that can always
Mhm.
be moved to take a meeting to solve a larger problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then a fourth way that is used, yeah, sometimes to an effect, it would be simply just sort of deferring to the best practices that your organization, your company, your boss has set for you, and you can add a little, self-deferential humor in there if you want, if that fits your style, and bonus points if you direct a little friendly fire at the AEs. So my favorite way to phrase it is, yeah, hey, look, Adriel, I'd love to pan you in for next month, but as a lowly SDR, the AEs will absolutely skin me alive if I do that. So, like, can you help me out?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's a good little saving throw on there, right?
Hmm.
Hey, like I'm just one away from hitting my quota, but if I can book you in for this time.
Actually, I have a counter to that. I think we should avoid begging, and we should avoid putting our
Mm,
quota on the prospect. Um, Really, ultimately, that's your responsibility, and I think it starts it off on the wrong foot. So yeah, again, avoid begging. There has to be like a limit to it, I think.
mhm. Can't be too desperate. Like that I think the desperation comes through, and uh that's the revolting part is the desperation, insistence without like hearing what the prospect's saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just doesn't sow any trust into the relationship, because
Mhm.
then the prospect feels that ultimately the demonstration is just for you to hit your quota and not actually to do the thing that we're supposed to do, which is to use our solution to solve a given problem, right? And then I think ultimately keep in mind that, yeah, again, like we said before, next week, maybe that doesn't work. 2 weeks doesn't work. Maybe it has to be a month. No problem. Book them in. And my little trick is just to schedule for myself a follow up call, a reminder call 2 weeks out from that date. Say, hey, Adriel, just checking in. We booked you in for November, like you asked. I just want to follow up and see if this time still works for you. I think that goes a long way to getting the prospect to show up for the demonstration.